Wages are rising faster than prices, and now we have among the lowest inflation rates of any country in America, and we're still fighting to lower it even further.
Inflation, which has been crushing our economy in a years-long surge, has cooled significantly. In the month of June, prices rose only 3% compared to the year before, which is the smallest 12-month increase the country has seen since March of 2021.
Jobs, jobs, jobs. The private sector witnessed a big hiring spike last month.
A blowout, upside surprise on the ADP report.
I got 497,000. I got a double take number here.
Companies added nearly 500,000 jobs in June. That is double what economists had predicted.
Guess what? Bidenomics is working.
100% of net job creation under the Biden administration has gone to the foreign-born. So we are taking an economy that produced prosperity for American citizens and turning it into an economy that produces prosperity for people who probably shouldn't be here in the first place.
What do you think is going to happen to all of our brainwashed leftist friends once things finally get so bad that they have no choice but to realize that literally everything that they have believed is just some sort of masterful propaganda? And I say masterful because it is masterful. I mean, believe it or not, there are people who really, really do believe that today, right now, the economy is better than it's ever been. They really do believe that Biden is some sort of job-creating superhero and that the southern border is a secure non-issue that has no issue, and the country has no issues, but whatever issues the economy or the border do happen to have are just out of their control or not a big deal. Either that or Donald Trump's fault. Somehow, they're both not a big deal and Donald Trump's fault. Figure that one out. But there are people that actually believe this. And the reason that they keep believing this is, things like the government keeps putting out inflated jobs numbers every month. Not a lot of people realize this, but the monthly jobs reports that we see MSNBC anchors clapping like trained seals over, every single one of them has been revised pretty significantly after the fact. I mean, it's the positive number version of negative story media retractions. Once the retraction comes, no one's paying attention. But you never know any of this unless you dig enough. And I found some really, really troubling and hard to believe jobs numbers. And I think they actually may show the true reason that Democrats are so unapologetically supportive of open borders. But first, guys, you got to see this. One of the world's largest food producers is pretty rapidly firing American citizens and replacing them with cheaper illegal immigrant labor.
New asylum seekers in New York City. So these people would come in, they'd learn a little bit about the company, and for the most part, Tyson had already gone through their various details of their application. And so many of them, 17 the day I was there, and then another 70 a couple weeks later, went off to Tennessee to go start their new jobs as Tyson production workers.
Oh, and the jobs come with perks, not just health insurance. Tyson's also offering lawyers to its illegal alien workers and time off to attend immigration hearings. In 2034, of course, they're firing Americans and offering perks to illegals. This was the Democrat plan all along.
Well, first of all, let's just say we are a nation of immigrants. 460,000 open jobs today. Wow. I have 5,000 farm jobs that I need filled so we can plant the crops.
Vegetables would rot in the ground if they weren't being picked by many immigrants, many illegal immigrants.
You see, even in Florida, some of the farmers and the growers saying, why are you shipping these immigrants up north? We need them to pick the crops.
Can you even imagine what kind of shitstorm there would be if any random Republican started mouthing off about immigrants only being good for picking crops or manual labor or whatever? I mean, it would be insane. But the truth is, you would never, ever, ever hear a Republican or a conservative talk like that because it's a horrible thing to even think. And it's just not how any reasonable person does think. But this is what leftists, liberals, and other morally corrupt creatures on the left really do think about illegal immigrants. It's freaking insane. They're the same people that will tell you that our economy depends on them. What they're trying to tell you is this economy does not survive without slave labor. And they really do believe that.
We reached out to Tyson for comment, and they said they have a very diverse set of employees, and they're proud of it. Ohio Senator and author of Hillbilly Elegy, J.D. Vance, joins us now. I didn't think it was legal, Senator, to axe American workers and hire en masse illegal aliens.
Well, it shouldn't be, Jesse, and we're certainly going to look into whether we can change that, assuming Tyson is operating legally, which we don't even know if they are. We don't know the details of this. All we know, Jesse, is that they are firing American workers and hiring illegal aliens to replace them. This is the entire point of illegal immigration, and Republicans, we've got to hammer this point home. It reduces the wages of American workers by replacing American citizens with foreign laborers who are willing to work at slave wages. It has been the plan, as you said, from the beginning. And what this means is the eradication of the American dream. Every time an American is replaced with an illegal immigrant, it means that an American family loses a good family supporting wage. It means that American companies are literally replacing our own citizens with people who will work for slave wages. That is not capitalism or a market economy, Jesse. That is the decimation of the American middle class via illegal immigration, and it's happening all over the country.
And this poor town's going to get slaughtered. All of those people laid off in such a small town, it's just going to have such a tremendous impact. Are they getting around it legally by saying we're not hiring illegal aliens, we're hiring asylum seekers? Is that how they do it?
Well, that's one of the ways that they do it, Jesse, and we know that the Biden administration has made it easier to basically pretend that economic migrants are asylum seekers. It's one of the reasons why we have to change our asylum laws in this nation. But, Jesse, think about how much of a contrast this presents between the Trump economy and the Biden economy. If you go back to the Trump economy, you had American jobs going to American workers. You had wages rising. Under the Biden economy, you have those American workers getting fired and replaced with foreign labor. This is not an exaggeration. All net job creation, Jesse, you heard me right, 100% of net job creation under the Biden administration has gone to the foreign-born. So we are taking an economy that produced prosperity for American citizens and turning it into an economy that produces prosperity for people who probably shouldn't be here in the first place. And I bet you know what Tyson isn't doing, Jesse? I bet they're not drug testing the illegal immigrants who are coming in. I bet they're not asking whether they're bringing fentanyl or drugs into that small town with them. This is the end of the American dream if we let this stuff happen. We've got to reelect Donald Trump, and we've got to get congressional Republicans with some spine to push back against this stuff.
Hear, hear. Thanks for speaking out about this, and thanks for all your work with East Palestine. We really appreciate it.
Listen to what you just heard right there. 100% of net job creation under the Biden administration has gone to the foreign-born. I didn't think that could possibly be right. It just sounds too crazy, too hard to believe. So I started digging. And the way you get to that, net job creation is basically by measuring today, right now, against 2019, the pre-pandemic jobs numbers. Now, I found some pretty interesting articles that rely on the CPS data that the government puts out every month. CPS stands for Current Population Survey. And just look at this graph, man. There are, according to our own government, 183,000 less Americans working right now than pre-COVID. Now, that's stagnant. That's not up. That's not down. That's not a huge dip. It's not a big deal. But the problem is there have been essentially 2.7 million net jobs created, which means that there are 2.9 million more foreign-born workers working right now than in 2019. So Senator Vance, man, was completely correct. Every single net job created by the greatest jobs president in history has gone to a foreign-born person. Now, I say foreign-born because the strength of the government's data make it almost impossible to distinguish legal from illegal. But no matter how you look at it, that's an effed up deal. I mean, that is just, it's not good. Nothing an administration of any political party should be proud of. And honestly, only the mushiest of mushy brains could possibly believe any of that is indicative of success, but people believe it. And the same people that believe that believe this.
We were going to pay off debt. We were going to reduce taxes further. We gave you the biggest tax cut in the history of our country, bigger than the Ronald Reagan tax cut.
Wow. The actual numbers show something very different, right, Steve?
Yeah, he did give us a big tax cut. That part is true. But what it did was it actually increased the deficit. So when he says that we were on track to pay off the debt, look what happened to the deficit even before COVID. Even before COVID, because of his tax cut, the deficit was going up, up, up. And then, of course, COVID hit. And under Biden, he's actually brought it down. And in his new proposed budget, he would bring it down further. And so because of that huge huge deficit, when he talks also about how he was going to pay off the debt during his first term, he in fact added more debt than any other president in history. Some of it, yes, was COVID, $3.6 trillion, but there was also $5 trillion of debt that had nothing to do with COVID. And Trump signed a whole series of spending bills that increased our spending by over $2.5 trillion. So the idea that he was a president that was going to attack the deficit and debt problem is actually completely false.
I don't even know what, I mean, you got to feel bad for the people that watch that network, man. But here's that chart again, and I think you probably noticed when you watch this, but while they were telling you that Donald Trump increased the debt every year in office, what they didn't mention was that major high point right here was the pandemic, which, as bad as that was, if you really break that down and that spending, that was out of control, drunken sailors in both parties riding COVID-19 for every possible dime that they could squeeze out of you and squeeze out of me. And if you really look at it and really dig into just the raw numbers, it doesn't do Joe Biden any real favors. I mean, COVID is long gone. Out of control, Donald Trump spending is 4 years ago. And yet our fiscally responsible, debt-destroying Joe Biden is still not even down to 2009 level spending. And, this is just the numbers that the government is giving us. This is just what they're using, not even digging into the tax cuts, the Trump tax cuts that they referenced and how bad they were. They won't tell you that they actually generated tax revenues as a percentage of GDP, record after record after record, almost every year since then until recently. And that, again, that's just using the government's own data against their own position. And if you just look a little bit, as usual, it tells the exact opposite story of the state-approved mouthpieces.
Why inflation in the U.S. is lower than it is in any of the other G7 countries.
It's actually not true.
Yes, it is.
Well, not according to the Washington Post. They say Japan, Italy, and Germany all had lower inflation rates than we do, and Italy's is less than 1%.
They may have been looking at a different time period, but I'm telling you, if you look at the overall time period when it was toughest, our inflation rate was better.
Just listen to the voodoo old Mayor Pete tries to pull. He got called on his BS, and his answer was essentially, everything I'm saying is true and verifiable. If you look at this one exact date that I'm referencing, I don't mean that we're doing the best right now. I meant that there was a day, years and years ago, that we had a lower inflation than everybody else. And that's the day I think the Americans really should focus on or are focused on. Basically, he's saying Americans don't care about today. And Americans are too dumb to recognize that these guys are just full of it. I mean, he thinks all they care about, all Americans care about is stopping Donald Trump and protecting democracy. And if that means that we all have to go broke, then according to Mayor Pete, he thinks we'd all agree that that's what we need to do. That's essentially what these people sound like. I mean, it's just crazy, man. And the most insane thing is that this stuff works on people who will actually vote, man. There are people in this world who are literally working their fingers to the bone. They can't afford half the things that they used to, and they still have allowed themselves to be somehow convinced that they've never been better off. I mean, it is remarkable stuff, man. And if we don't figure out a way to help these people win back their own brains, then we are completely and totally screwed. But that's just my take, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't already, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. I'll see you in the next one.